The cedar box on the dresser, my Aunt Patricia says, standing up mid-sentence, while Mr. Blackwell is still reading the will. That's mine, right? Mr. Blackwell stops and looks down at his papers. He flips through 2 pages, then 3. The will doesn't specifically designate the cedar box to anyone. Exactly. Patricia is already walking toward the corner where Grandma Eleanor's personal items are displayed. So it goes to family. Blood family. She picks up the box before anyone can respond. My mother-in-law Diane nods like, this makes perfect sense. My husband Brandon shifts uncomfortably beside me but says nothing. Wait, I say. Grandma promised me that box, multiple times. Patricia turns, cradling it against her chest. Promised isn't the same as written, sweetie. If Eleanor wanted you to have it, she would have put it in the will. Mr. Blackwell clears his throat. Verbal promises don't override the legal document. If the item isn't specifically listed, it becomes part of the general estate to be distributed among heirs. Then I'm claiming it, Patricia says, as her niece and blood relative. I look at Brandon. He's studying the floor. Diane is smiling that tight smile she uses when she's gotten exactly what she wanted. Mr. Blackwell continues reading the will like nothing happened. The cedar box sits in Patricia's lap for the rest of the meeting. Dark wood, brass corners, small keyhole. I watched Grandma touch that box every single visit for 3 years. Every time she'd pat it and say, this is yours someday, everything in here. But someday never made it into legal language. And now Patricia is walking out the door with it. In the parking lot, I grab Brandon's arm. Your aunt just took something Grandma promised me. Keep your voice down, he mutters, glancing toward his mother's car. I'm not yelling. I'm asking you to back me up. About what? You heard the lawyer. It's not in the will. He pulls his arm free gently. Patricia has every legal right to take it. Legal right? Grandma told both of us. She told everyone a lot of things near the end, Brandon interrupts. You know how confused she got? My stomach drops. She wasn't confused 6 months ago when she told me that box would be mine. Brandon's jaw tightens. Can we not do this here? Patricia walks past us toward her car, the cedar box tucked under one arm like a purse. She doesn't look at me, doesn't acknowledge me, just unlocks her trunk and sets it inside carefully, almost lovingly. Excuse me, I call out. Can we at least talk about this? Patricia closes the trunk. Nothing to talk about. The will is clear. This goes to family. She pauses. Blood family. Diane appears beside her daughter, car keys in hand. Stop making trouble. Eleanor's gone. Respect that. I'm trying to respect what she wanted. What she legally wanted is in that will, Diane says sharply. Everything else is just stories. They drive away. Brandon and I stand alone in the parking lot. The September sun is too bright. The air smells like cut grass and exhaust. I need you to support me, I say quietly. Brandon sighs. I need you to let this go. That night, I'm still awake at midnight when Brandon comes to bed. I've been staring at the ceiling, replaying the meeting in my head. It's not junk, I say into the darkness. What? The cedar box. If it was junk, why did Patricia grab it so fast? Brandon rolls over. She wanted a keepsake. That's normal. She knew exactly what she was doing. She stood up the second the lawyer said it wasn't listed, like she'd been waiting. You're overthinking this. I turned to face him. Your grandmother told me explicitly that box was mine. She said it every visit. You heard her. She also told Patricia things. She told my mom things. She had dementia, babe. Her promises didn't always. She didn't have dementia 6 months ago. The doctor said she had some memory issues with recent events, not long-term planning, not conversations about her will. Brandon sits up. What do you want me to do? The will doesn't list the box. Patricia took it. It's over. Call your aunt. Ask her to return it. I'm not doing that. Why not? Because it's embarrassing. Because I'm not getting in the middle of this. Because you need to accept that sometimes things don't go how we want. The silence stretches between us like a chasm. Finally I ask, whose side are you on? There are no sides. It's family. I'm your family. You know what I mean. But I do now. And that's exactly the problem. 3 days later, my mother asks me to meet for coffee. The moment I sit down, she says, your grandmother made you a promise. I know. So why are you letting them steal from you? Mom, it's not legally mine. The will. Forget the will for a second. She leans forward. Who spent every Tuesday and Thursday at Eleanor's apartment for the last 3 years. Who made her dinner? Who listened to her stories? Who held her hand when she was scared? My throat tightens. I did. Not Patricia. Not Diane. You. My mother's voice is fierce. Eleanor didn't have dementia when she told you about that box. She was crystal clear. I was there for 2 of those conversations. I remember those visits. Grandma sitting in her recliner by the window, afternoon light making her white hair glow. The cedar box is for you, she'd said. Everything inside. My mother's things, history, value. Promise me you won't let anyone take it. I'd promised. But I didn't know I'd need that promise in writing. Brandon won't help, I tell my mother. He thinks I should let it go. Then maybe Brandon's the problem. I don't answer. My mother reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. Fight for this, not because of what's in the box, though I suspect that matters too. Fight because Eleanor chose you, she trusted you, and they're erasing that because you're not blood. Patricia said that exactly. I know, I heard. My mother's eyes flash, which is why you need to prove them wrong. Sunday dinner at Diane's house is worse than I expected. Everyone acts like the will reading never happened. Patricia is there, laughing loudly at Brandon's jokes. Diane serves roast chicken like this is a normal family gathering. I push food around my plate, not tasting anything. Finally, Patricia looks at me with exaggerated concern. You've been so quiet, honey. Everything okay? I'm fine. Still upset about that old box? She says it like I'm a child pouting over a toy. It's not about the box itself. Good, because holding grudges isn't healthy. Patricia sips her wine. Family is more important than things. Diane nods approvingly. Exactly. Eleanor would want us all to get along. Then give me the box Grandma promised me. The table goes silent. Patricia's smile freezes. Diane's fork stops halfway to her mouth. The will was very clear, Diane says slowly, like I'm stupid. If Eleanor wanted you to have that box, she would have written it down. She told me. Verbal promises aren't binding, Patricia interrupts. That's why we have wills, to avoid confusion. But she promised. She also promised me things, Patricia says sharply. She promised my mother things. She was old and sick and said whatever made people happy in the moment. Brandon is cutting his chicken with intense focus. He hasn't looked at me once. The box contains items from Eleanor's mother, I say, keeping my voice steady. Grandma told me those were meant for me because I reminded her of her mother. Thoughtful, patient, present. The implications hang in the air. Patricia's face flushes. You married into this family 4 years ago, she says coldly. I've been blood for 48 years. You do the math. So that's what this is about. Blood. Diane sets down her silverware. You're not understanding. Family heirlooms stay in the bloodline. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. Brandon finally speaks. Can we please just eat? I stand up. I understand perfectly now. I understand my place. Don't be dramatic, Diane sighs. I'm not. I'm just done pretending we're family. I walk out. Brandon doesn't follow. Monday morning, I call Patricia from my office during lunch break. I've been thinking, I say carefully. If the cedar box really is just sentimental value, then it shouldn't matter who keeps it. That's true, Patricia says, her voice guarded. So give it back to me. Silence, long enough that I check if the call dropped. Patricia? No. Why not? If it's just keepsakes. Because it's mine. The will doesn't give it to you. I claimed it legally. Discussion over. But Grandma wanted. Grandma was dying. She said a lot of things that didn't make sense. Now I have the box and I'm keeping it. Stop calling me about this. She hangs up. I sit at my desk, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. Her reaction tells me everything. This isn't about sentiment. This isn't about keepsakes or memories or blood family traditions. If the box was worthless, she'd return it just to shut me up. But she won't return it. Which means there's something inside worth fighting for. I open my laptop and start a new document. Cedar box documentation. First entry. Patricia's refusal to return item despite claiming no monetary value. Inconsistency noted. If they won't tell me what's really happening, I'll figure it out myself. That Saturday, I volunteer to help clean out Grandma's storage unit. The executor, Mr. Blackwell, meets me there with keys and paperwork. Everything removed needs to be logged, he explains. Sign here for access. The unit is exactly like Grandma lived, organized and intentional. Boxes labeled in her neat handwriting. Kitchen, books, photos, holiday decorations. Nothing random, nothing forgotten. This wasn't someone with severe dementia. This was someone who planned carefully. I'm photographing labels for the estate inventory when I see it in the back corner. A cardboard box, larger than the others, labeled "Important for Lawyer." "Mr. Blackwell?" I call out. He's checking his phone near the entrance. "Yes? Did you receive a box labeled for you?" He walks over, frowning at the label. "No, what's in it?" "I don't know. It's sealed." We carefully open it together. Inside are file folders, each labeled with dates, legal documents, letters, and at the very bottom a large manila envelope with cedar box addendum, "File with will," written across the front in red marker. Mr. Blackwell goes very still. This should have been in my office, but it wasn't. No. He picks up the envelope carefully, turning it over. The seal is broken. Someone opened this and didn't deliver it. We look at each other. The storage unit suddenly feels smaller, closer. Someone removed this box before the estate was settled. Someone didn't want Mr. Blackwell to see what was inside. "We need to read this," he says. "Now." Mr. Blackwell opens the manila envelope right there in the storage unit. His hands are steady, but I can see the tension in his jaw. Inside is a typed document, 3 pages, with Grandma Eleanor's signature at the bottom of each page. 2 witness signatures beside hers, a notary stamp, official and legal. He reads silently first, his expression changing with each paragraph. Then he looks at me. "This is a codicil to the will," he says quietly. "An addendum, legally binding, if filed properly." "What does it say?" "It specifically designates the cedar box and all contents to you." He shows me the second page. "By name, your full legal name." My hands start shaking. "When was this written?" 8 months ago, February 14th. He points to the date. "Valentine's Day." "Is it legal?" "Completely. Notarized, witnessed, dated. This should have been filed with the main will. Instead, someone hid it in storage." "Who had access to this unit before today?" Mr. Blackwell checks his paperwork. "According to the estate records, Patricia had a key. She was supposed to inventory the unit 2 weeks after Eleanor passed." The pieces click into place. Patricia had access. Patricia found this box. Patricia read the codicil naming me as the cedar box recipient. And Patricia hid it so she could claim the box herself. "That's theft," I whisper. "That's suppression of legal documents," Mr. Blackwell corrects, "which is fraud." We stand in the dusty storage unit, holding proof that changes everything. The box wasn't promised to me verbally. It was legally designated to me in writing. Patricia knew, and she took it anyway. "What happens now?" I ask. Mr. Blackwell's voice is cold. "Now I make some calls. Patricia is in serious trouble." That evening, Mr. Blackwell calls an emergency meeting at his office. Patricia, Diane, and Brandon all arrive within an hour. The tension is thick enough to cut. "We found additional estate documents," Mr. Blackwell begins, placing the codicil on the conference table. Patricia's face goes pale. "Where did that come from?" "The storage unit. In a box labeled for my office. A box you were supposed to inventory 2 weeks after Eleanor's death." He slides it toward her. "Did you see this document then?" I don't remember." "You don't remember finding legal documents labeled for the estate lawyer?" Diane leans forward. "What is that?" "A codicil to Eleanor's will," Mr. Blackwell says, "specifically designating the cedar box and all contents to Eleanor's granddaughter-in-law." He looks at me, by name. The room erupts. Brandon's staring at the document like it might explode. Diane is demanding to see it. Patricia is shaking her head, saying no, no, no under her breath. "Read it out loud," I say quietly. Everyone stops, looks at me. "Read it out loud," I repeat, so there's no confusion. Mr. Blackwell picks up the codicil. His voice is formal, legal, clear. "I, Eleanor Jane Morrison, being of sound mind and body, do hereby add the following provision to my last will and testament. The cedar box, currently on my bedroom dresser, and all contents within are to be given in their entirety to my beloved granddaughter-in-law, who has shown me kindness and companionship in my final years. This box is not to be opened, divided, or distributed among other heirs. It is a complete gift to the person named herein." He pauses. "Then she lists your full legal name, social security number, and current address." Silence. Patricia is staring at the table. Diane's mouth is open. "That can't be real," Diane finally says. "It's notarized, witnessed by Eleanor's doctor and her neighbor. Filed and dated 8 months before her death when she was, according to medical records, fully competent." "Then why wasn't it with the will?" Patricia demands. That, Mr. Blackwell says coldly, is exactly what I want to know. You had sole access to that storage unit. You were specifically tasked with inventorying legal documents, and somehow this codicil never made it to my office. I didn't see it. The box was clearly labeled for lawyer. Are you saying you missed that? Patricia doesn't answer. She can't. We all know what happened. She found the codicil, read it, and hid it so she could take the cedar box for herself. Brandon finally speaks. So the box legally belongs to my wife? Yes, Mr. Blackwell says. It always did. The meeting ends with Mr. Blackwell demanding the cedar box be returned to his office immediately. Patricia tries to argue, but there's no argument left. The law is clear. I'll bring it tomorrow, she says weakly. Tonight, Mr. Blackwell corrects. Within 2 hours. Or I file a police report for theft and suppression of legal documents. Patricia leaves with Diane, both of them silent. Brandon and I are left alone with Mr. Blackwell. What happens next? Brandon asks. I inventory the box contents, then it transfers to its legal owner. Mr. Blackwell looks at me. I'm also recommending we have the contents professionally appraised. Why? I ask. Because, he says slowly, if Patricia went to this much trouble to hide legal documents, there's something in that box worth hiding for. 2 hours later, Patricia arrives at Mr. Pat Blackwell's office with the cedar box. She won't look at me, just sets it on his desk like it burns her hands. Is everything inside? Mr. Blackwell asks. Yes. Untouched? Yes. He makes her sign a receipt for the return. The moment she leaves, he opens the box carefully. Papers rustle. Something gleams under the office lights. Oh, he says softly. Oh no. What? He turns the box so I can see inside. Jewelry. Not costume jewelry. Real jewelry. Gold, gems, intricate metalwork that looks like it belongs in a museum. I need to make a call, Mr. Blackwell says, already reaching for his phone. This is way beyond my expertise. He's calling an appraiser. My heart is pounding. Patricia didn't just hide legal documents. She tried to steal something valuable. Something Grandma wanted me to have. How much trouble is she in? I whisper. Mr. Blackwell looks at me over his phone. Serious trouble. The kind you need a lawyer for. The appraiser arrives Monday morning. His name is Howard Chen, and he specializes in estate jewelry. He sets up in Mr. Blackwell's conference room with a laptop, special lights, and jeweler's tools. I sit across from him, watching him work. Brandon took the day off work to be here. He hasn't said much since the codicil was discovered. Howard removes each piece carefully. A brooch with deep green stones, a necklace with sapphires, rings, earrings, bracelets. Each one carefully photographed and examined. Victorian era, he murmurs. Edwardian. Some Art Deco pieces. This is a significant collection. How significant? Mr. Blackwell asks. Howard doesn't answer immediately. He's examining the emerald brooch under magnification, making notes. Finally, he sets down his tools. I need to verify some things before I give you numbers. But preliminarily, he looks at me. This collection is worth at least $150,000, possibly more. The number doesn't feel real. I stare at him, waiting for the punchline. That's conservative, Howard continues. If these pieces are from the Whitmore family collection, and I believe they are, the value could be significantly higher. Whitmore? I ask. Eleanor Whitmore Morrison, her mother's maiden name. Howard pulls up something on his laptop. The Whitmore family had an extensive jewelry collection in the 1940s. Most people assumed it was sold during the Depression, but if Eleanor inherited it instead and kept it hidden. That's what's in this box, Mr. Blackwell finishes. Brandon has gone completely white. $150,000? At minimum. And Patricia knew? I ask. Howard picks up a piece of paper from inside the box. It's a handwritten inventory in Grandma's neat script, listing each piece and its approximate value. The total at the bottom, $182,000. She knew, Howard says quietly. That night, I confront Brandon in our kitchen. Did you know the box was valuable? No. Your mother knew. Your aunt knew. I didn't. When we left Grandma's will reading, your mom pulled you aside. What did she say? Brandon leans against the counter, not meeting my eyes. She said Grandma had some antique jewelry that belonged in the family. And that I shouldn't get involved if you asked about it. The betrayal hits like cold water. You knew they were planning something. I didn't know what was in the box. Mom just said. He stops. Said what? Said Grandma made promises to everyone. that we shouldn't let verbal promises complicate the legal process. That's lawyer talk. Where did she get that language? Brandon doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. Diane coordinated this with Patricia. They found the codicil, hid it, and briefed Brandon on how to keep me quiet if I protested. You were in on it, I say. I wasn't. You were told to stay neutral, which kept me isolated. That's the same as being in on it. I didn't know about the money, but you knew enough. You knew they were hiding something, and you said nothing. Brandon runs his hands through his hair. They're my family. I'm your wife. I know. No, Brandon, you don't know, because if you knew, you would have stood beside me instead of staying silent while your family committed fraud. Fraud, that's what it is. They suppressed legal documents to steal $150,000 worth of jewelry. That's fraud. That's theft. That's serious. Brandon slumps into a chair. What happens now? Now? I pour myself water just to have something to do with my hands. Now I call my own lawyer, because your family isn't going to stop until they're forced to. My lawyer's name is Victoria Wells. She's in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a reputation for estate litigation. This is straightforward theft, she says after reviewing all the documents. Your aunt suppressed a legal codicil, took property worth $150,000, and lied about her actions. We have grounds for civil litigation and potentially criminal charges. Criminal. Suppressing legal documents is fraud. Taking property designated to someone else is theft. If the prosecutor wants to make an example, your aunt could face jail time. The words hang in the air of Victoria's office. Jail time. For Patricia. What do you recommend? I ask. Demand letter first. We give her 7 days to cooperate fully, return all items, sign an affidavit acknowledging the theft, and pay any damages. If she refuses, we file suit. Will she cooperate? Victoria leans back in her leather chair. Most people fold when they realize they're exposed. The question is whether she's had time to damage or sell any of the jewelry. My stomach drops. You think she sold pieces? She had the box for 3 weeks before returning it. That's enough time to have items appraised privately and potentially sell smaller pieces. We need a complete inventory against Eleanor's handwritten list to see if anything's missing. How do we prove what was there? Eleanor's inventory from inside the box. If it lists pieces that aren't there now, Patricia is liable for the value. I think about Patricia's face when she returned the box. How she wouldn't look at me. How her hands shook slightly setting it down. She took something, I say quietly. Then she's going to pay for it, one way or another. The demand letter is delivered via certified mail on Wednesday. Patricia has to sign for it. I know because the tracking shows delivered, signature required at 2:47 p.m. At 3:15 my phone explodes with calls. Patricia, Diane, Brandon. I let them all go to voicemail. At 6 p.m. I listen to Patricia's message. Her voice is shrill, panicked. How dare you threaten me with lawyers? I'm family. You're destroying everything over money you never would have had if you hadn't married into this family. This is extortion. I'm calling my lawyer and you're going to regret this. You ungrateful, selfish. The message cuts off at 30 seconds. She called back and left another. You have no idea what you're starting. No idea. That jewelry was meant for blood family, and I don't care what some fake codicil says. Eleanor was dying and confused, and you took advantage. I delete it halfway through. Diane's voicemail is calmer but colder. This vendetta is tearing apart this family. Whatever you think you'll gain, it's not worth losing everyone who actually matters. Brandon is devastated. Patricia is hysterical. Is this really who you want to be? Brandon's message is just, we need to talk. Tonight. I don't call back. I forward all 3 voicemails to Victoria. She emails back within 10 minutes. Save everything. This establishes their awareness of the legal claim and their refusal to acknowledge wrongdoing. Very useful for court. That night, Brandon comes home at 9 p.m. I'm sitting in the dark living room. Why are you doing this? He asks without turning on the lights. Because they committed fraud. You're going to destroy Patricia over a box of jewelry. No, Brandon. Patricia destroyed herself when she hid legal documents and stole $150,000. He sits down heavily on the couch. Can't you just take the jewelry and drop the legal stuff? She committed crimes. She's family. She's a thief. We sit in the darkness, 2 people who used to be on the same side. Now there's only space between us. Mr. Blackwell calls Friday morning. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The inventory. I compared Eleanor's handwritten list to the actual contents. There's a discrepancy. My chest tightens. What's missing? A pair of ruby earrings. According to Eleanor's notes, they were her mother's wedding gift in 1942. Matched natural rubies, approximately 2 carats each. She estimated their value at $18,000. $18,000. Gone. Patricia had the box for 3 weeks, I say. I know. She sold them. We can't prove that yet, but the earrings were listed in Eleanor's inventory, and they're not in the box now. Patricia is the only person who had access. What do we do? Victoria needs to amend the demand letter. Patricia either returns the earrings within 48 hours or she's liable for their full value plus damages. An hour later, an amended demand letter is sent. This one includes the missing ruby earrings and specifies that failure to return them will result in criminal theft charges, not just civil litigation. Victoria calls me after it's delivered. This changes things. Missing items mean she didn't just suppress documents. She actively stole and likely sold estate property. The prosecutor will be very interested. How much trouble is she in? Jail time is on the table now. Real jail time. I sit with that information for a long time after hanging up. I never wanted to destroy Patricia. I just wanted what Grandma promised me. But Patricia made choices: hide documents, take jewelry, sell pieces, lie repeatedly. And choices have consequences. The family meeting happens at Mr. Blackwell's office Monday morning. Everyone is there. Patricia, Diane, Brandon, Victoria, Howard the appraiser, and me. Patricia looks like she hasn't slept in days. Diane's face is stone. Brandon sits at the end of the table, separated from everyone. Let's address the missing earrings, Mr. Blackwell begins. I don't know anything about earrings, Patricia says immediately. Eleanor's inventory clearly lists ruby earrings. They're not in the box. You had possession for 3 weeks. Where are they? Maybe Grandma sold them before she died. Her inventory is dated 2 months before her death. The earrings were there then. Patricia's hands twist in her lap. I don't know. Maybe they fell out. Maybe they were never there. Howard leans forward. Mrs. Patricia, I've examined the box carefully. There's a small velvet pouch that perfectly fits earring storage. The pouch is empty. Something was removed. That doesn't mean I took them. You're the only person who had access, Victoria says calmly. You had motive. You knew the collection was valuable. You had opportunity. 3 weeks of unsupervised possession. And now there's an $18,000 item missing. This is insane, Diane says. You're accusing her of theft based on nothing. Based on evidence, Victoria corrects. She slides a document across the table. We've subpoenaed local jewelers for recent estate jewelry appraisals. We'll know within 2 weeks if Patricia had pieces evaluated or sold. Patricia's face drains of color. You can't do that. We already did. The room goes silent. I watch Patricia's hands shake, watch her eyes dart to Diane for help. Diane is staring at Victoria like she's seeing her for the first time. Return the earrings, Mr. Blackwell says quietly, right now, and this might stay civil. I don't have them, Patricia whispers. Then where are they? No answer. Patricia, Mr. Blackwell's voice hardens. Where are Eleanor's ruby earrings? I sold them. Patricia finally screams. Are you happy? I sold them. I needed the money and they were just sitting there and I thought. You thought you'd steal them, Victoria finishes. Patricia collapses forward, sobbing. Diane puts a hand on her shoulder but says nothing. There's nothing to say. Patricia just confessed to theft in front of witnesses and lawyers. Brandon is staring at his aunt like he's never seen her before. How much did you get? He asks quietly. $12,000, Patricia whispers through tears. You stole $18,000 of jewelry and sold it for $12,000? Howard sounds almost offended professionally. I didn't know what they were worth. The jeweler said $12,000, and I took it. Victoria is taking notes. Which jeweler? Patricia gives a name. Victoria writes it down. This meeting is over, Mr. Blackwell says. Patricia, you have 48 hours to pay restitution of $18,000 for the missing earrings. That's the full appraised value, not what you sold them for. If you don't pay, we file criminal charges. I don't have $18,000. Then, Victoria says, standing up, you should have thought of that before you became a thief. Patricia can't pay. Of course she can't. She calls Tuesday evening, her voice hoarse. I don't have the money. Can we do payments? No, Victoria says. We're on speakerphone in her office. But here's what we can do. The earring value gets deducted from your inheritance. Silence. Hello, Patricia? That's not fair. You stole $18,000 worth of jewelry. The estate deducting that from your share is extremely fair. It's merciful, actually. The alternative is criminal charges. But my inheritance was only $30,000. That leaves me with 12. Should have thought of that before you stole and sold estate property. More silence. Then, quietly, I didn't mean for this to happen. Yet it happened. You suppressed legal documents. You took jewelry worth $150,000. You sold pieces worth $18,000. You lied repeatedly. These were choices, Patricia, not accidents. I needed the money. My husband lost his job, and I was desperate, and I just thought, you thought you'd steal from your dying aunt's estate, and now you're paying for that choice. Patricia is crying. You've destroyed me. Are you happy? I'm not happy, Victoria says. I'm just doing my job. Your niece-in-law was legally entitled to that jewelry. You stole it. Now you face consequences. That's how this works. Patricia hangs up. Victoria looks at me across her desk. How do you feel? Tired, I say. Just tired. The rest of the jewelry is legally yours. Patricia's inheritance will be reduced by $18,000. The missing earrings issue is resolved. You won. Then why doesn't it feel like winning? Victoria's expression softens. Because you're a good person who never wanted this fight. You just wanted what was yours. But they forced you to become someone harder. Someone willing to use lawyers and courts and legal force. That transformation costs something. She's right. I look down at my hands and barely recognize the person who's been fighting this battle. 3 months ago, I would have folded. Would have let Patricia keep the box. Would have chosen peace over justice. But Grandma Eleanor didn't raise me to fold. She left me that codicil and that jewelry specifically so I'd learn this lesson. Your voice matters. Your worth matters. And people who try to silence you deserve consequences. The estate settlement finalizes on a cold Tuesday in November. I sign papers in Mr. Blackwell's office while Brandon sits silently beside me. He drove me here but hasn't spoken beyond necessary words. The cedar box transfers to me officially. Howard's final appraisal came back at $198,000, higher than the initial assessment after proper examination. What will you do with it? Mr. Blackwell asks. I don't know yet. But that's not entirely true. I've been thinking about this for weeks. Part of me wants to sell it all, take the money, and start over somewhere far from Brandon's family. Part of me wants to keep every piece as proof that I fought and won. The jewelry should be insured immediately, Howard advises, and stored in a bank safety deposit box. I nod. I've already made those arrangements. As we're leaving, Mr. Blackwell stops me. Eleanor would be proud of you. The words hit unexpectedly hard. My throat tightens. Thank you. She knew this would happen. That's why she wrote that codicil, why she had it notarized and witnessed. She was protecting you from exactly what occurred. I just wish she'd told me. She probably wanted you to discover your own strength. Sounds like you did. On the drive home, Brandon finally speaks. Mom says Patricia is devastated. She's barely eating. She stole $18,000. She made a mistake. A mistake is grabbing the wrong coat. Hiding legal documents and selling stolen jewelry is a crime spree. Brandon grips the steering wheel tighter. Do you have to be so cold about this? Would you prefer I feel guilty for taking what was legally mine? I'd prefer you showed some compassion. Where was your family's compassion when they told me I didn't matter because I'm not blood? Where was it when Patricia hid that codicil? When she sold Grandma's earrings? Brandon doesn't answer. We drive the rest of the way in silence. That night, I move the cedar box to a bank safety deposit box. The jewelry glitters under fluorescent lights as I carefully place each piece in protective pouches. The emerald brooch, the sapphire necklace, the rings and bracelets and remaining pieces. Everything Grandma wanted me to have. Everything Patricia tried to steal. I lock the box and pocket the key. On the drive home, I realize I don't feel guilty. I feel vindicated and free. 3 weeks later, I'm at the grocery store when I see Patricia in the produce section. We make eye contact across the lettuce. She freezes, a bag of apples in her hand. I could turn around, could avoid this. But I'm tired of being the one who retreats. I finish selecting vegetables and walk toward the checkout. As I pass her aisle, she speaks. I hope you're happy. I stop, turn to face her. About what? About destroying my life over some jewelry. I didn't destroy your life, Patricia. You made choices that had consequences. Her face flushes red. I made mistakes because I was desperate. You made crimes. There's a difference. That jewelry was supposed to stay in the family. You're not family. You never were. The words should hurt. Maybe once they would have. Now they just sound pathetic. Grandma Eleanor disagreed. She put it in writing, had it notarized, and left clear instructions. You suppressed those instructions and stole what wasn't yours. How I should feel guilty for taking what was legally mine. Because family is supposed to forgive. Family is supposed to not steal from each other in the first place. Patricia's hands are shaking. People are starting to stare. She notices and lowers her voice. You took $18,000 from my inheritance. I'm struggling to pay rent. Then you shouldn't have sold earrings worth $18,000. I didn't know what they were worth. You knew enough to hide legal documents. You knew enough to grab that box the second the lawyer said it wasn't listed. You knew exactly what you were doing. Patricia's face crumples. I hate you. I know, I say quietly, but that's not my problem anymore. I leave her standing there surrounded by produce and judging stares. In my car, I sit for a long moment, hands on the steering wheel, breathing. Part of me feels bad. She's family, or was. She's struggling, and I could help. But another part, the part that fought for 3 months to get what Grandma wanted me to have, that part knows. Helping her now would just teach her that stealing works if you cry long enough. Some lessons cost money. Patricia's cost $18,000. That's the price of theft. Brandon moves out in December. He doesn't call it leaving, he calls it needing space to think. But we both know what it means. I can't keep choosing between you and my family, he says while packing a suitcase. You've been choosing them this entire time. That's not fair, isn't it? You stayed silent at the will reading. You told me to let it go. You defended Patricia even after she admitted to theft. When exactly did you choose me? Brandon stops packing. I'm trying to keep everyone together. No, you're trying to avoid conflict. That's different. So what do you want from me? I wanted you to stand beside me, to believe me when I said Grandma made me a promise, to support me when your family called me greedy, to acknowledge that Patricia committed fraud. I pause, but you couldn't do any of that. Because it wasn't that simple. It was exactly that simple. Your aunt stole from me. You either supported me or you supported her. You chose her. Don't pretend that was complicated. Brandon closes his suitcase. Maybe we need time apart. Maybe we need a divorce. The word hangs between us. He doesn't argue, just picks up his bag and walks out. After he leaves, I sit in the silent apartment and realize I don't feel sad. I feel relieved. 3 months of fighting taught me something important. A marriage that requires me to accept theft isn't a marriage. It's a hostage situation. I open my laptop and email my lawyer. Subject line, divorce consultation. The divorce is straightforward. No kids. Assets clearly separated. The jewelry is mine. Inherited after marriage, so not community property. Brandon's lawyer tries to argue he deserves something for emotional distress. But Victoria shuts that down fast. Your client's family committed fraud against my client. They suppressed legal documents, stole property worth $200,000, and sold pieces for personal profit. You want to talk about emotional distress? We can file counterclaims all day. Brandon's lawyer backs down. The divorce finalizes in March. 4 years of marriage ended with signatures and paperwork. I sign my name on the final documents in Victoria's office. My hand doesn't shake. How do you feel? Victoria asks. Free, I say. Finally free. Good, that's the right answer. A week later, I sell 3 pieces from the collection. The Victorian brooch goes to a private collector in New York for $65,000. 2 rings sell at auction for a combined $38,000. The total is enough for a down payment on a small house across town. I close on the house in April. 2 bedrooms, a garden, hardwood floors. It's mine, completely, legally, undeniably mine. No Brandon, no Diane, no Patricia. Just me and space to breathe. The remaining jewelry stays in the safety deposit box. Sometimes I visit it, opening the box just to look at the pieces Grandma wanted me to have. The sapphire necklace, the Art Deco rings, the emerald bracelet. Each piece represents something now, not just money, but proof that I was right, that Grandma loved me, that I was worth fighting for. In late April, Diane calls. I almost don't answer, but curiosity wins. "What do you want?" I ask. "Patricia lost her house," Diane says without preamble. "She couldn't make the mortgage after the inheritance deduction." "I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? You cost her $18,000. She's moving in with me because she has nowhere else to go. She cost herself $18,000 when she stole and sold jewelry. You could have forgiven the debt." "No, I couldn't. That would be teaching her that theft works if you're family." Diane's voice hardens. "You've destroyed this family." "No, Diane, your family destroyed itself when you decided I didn't count because I'm not blood. When Patricia hid legal documents, when Brandon stayed silent, I just refused to be quiet about it. Brandon is miserable. Then maybe Brandon should think about why his marriage ended. Hint, it wasn't because I fought for what was mine. You're heartless. I'm done being walked on. Call it whatever makes you feel better." I hang up before she can respond. Block her number, block Patricia's, block all of them. 2 days later, Brandon texts, "Can we talk?" I don't respond. There's nothing left to say. A week later, another text. "I made mistakes, I see that now." I type and delete 3 responses before finally sending. "Seeing mistakes doesn't undo them. We're done, Brandon. Please stop contacting me." He sends one more message. "I'm sorry." I delete it without responding. Sorry doesn't change the past. It doesn't return the 3 months I spent fighting alone. It doesn't erase him choosing his family over me at every turn. Sorry is just a word people use when consequences show up. 6 months after the estate closes, I get a letter. No return address. Inside is a single page, handwritten. "You destroyed my life over jewelry. I hope it was worth it. You're not family. You never were. I'll never forgive you." It's signed P. I read it twice. Then I do something unexpected. I laugh. The letter is supposed to hurt, supposed to make me feel guilty, make me question whether the fight was worth it. Instead, it just proves I was right about everything. Patricia still doesn't get it, still thinks she's the victim, still believes I'm the villain for refusing to let her steal from me. After everything, the fraud, the theft, the lies, the confession, she learned nothing. I take a photo of the letter and send it to Victoria with the note, "For the file, in case she tries something else." Victoria responds immediately, "Keep the original. Document everything. Harassment has consequences too." That night, I visit the safety deposit box. Open the cedar box. Remove the small leather journal I've barely looked at. Grandma's personal diary from her final year. I start reading. The entries are short, sometimes just a few sentences. But one entry, dated 6 months before she died, stops me cold. "Saw Patricia and Diane whispering today when they thought I couldn't hear. Talking about my jewelry. About the box. I know what they're planning. That's why I'm writing the codicil tomorrow. My dear girl deserves better than thieves." There's more. If she fights for what's hers, she'll learn she's stronger than they ever let her believe. That's worth more than jewelry. But the jewelry helps. Tears blur the words. Grandma knew. She knew Patricia would try to steal it. She knew her family would treat me like I didn't matter. And she set up protection anyway. Not just legal protection. A lesson. Fight for yourself. Your worth isn't determined by other people's approval. And sometimes, standing up to family is the most important thing you'll ever do. 1 year after the estate closes, I'm at a coffee shop when I run into Brandon. He's with a woman I don't recognize. She's laughing at something he said. "Hey," he says, awkward. "Hi." We stand there for a moment. The woman senses tension and excuses herself to the bathroom. "You look good," Brandon says. "Thanks. You too. I heard you bought a house." "I did." That's good. I'm glad things worked out for you." There's something in his voice, regret maybe, or just discomfort at running into his ex-wife. "How's your family?" I ask, because I can't help myself. Brandon's expression shifts. "Patricia's okay, living with Mom. They're managing." "And you?" "Better. Therapy helped." He glances toward where his date disappeared. I realized I was conflict avoidant to the point of being complicit. "Yeah, you were. I should have stood up for you from the beginning. I know that now." I sip my coffee. What do you want me to say, Brandon? That it's okay? That I forgive you? I don't know. Maybe. I don't forgive you. You chose your family's theft over your wife's rights. You stayed silent when I needed support. You made me fight alone. I set down my cup. But I don't hate you either. Nothing you. Nothing? You're not part of my life anymore. You don't get to occupy space in my thoughts or feelings. You're just someone I used to know. His date returns. She links her arm through his, smiling. Ready to go? Yeah, Brandon says, but he's still looking at me. I walk past them without another word. Outside, the spring air is warm. Cherry blossoms are blooming. The world kept turning, and so did I. 2 years after everything started, I visit Grandma Eleanor's grave. It's a clear Saturday in May, the kind of day she loved. I bring flowers, purple irises, her favorite, set them carefully against the headstone. I won, I tell her. It took everything I had, but I won. The cemetery is quiet, just birds and wind through the trees. Patricia lost her house. Brandon and I divorced. Your family barely speaks to me. I pause, but I have the cedar box, the jewelry, the life you wanted me to have. I think about the codicil she wrote, knowing it would cause chaos. The way she documented everything, leaving no room for interpretation. How she protected me even after death. You knew this would happen, didn't you? You knew they'd fight. You knew I'd have to become someone harder to survive it. My throat tightens. I'm not sure I like who I became. But that's not entirely true. The person I became is someone who doesn't accept theft, who doesn't stay quiet when treated as less than, who fights for what's right even when it costs everything. That person is stronger than the one who walked into that will reading 2 years ago. Stronger than the one who almost let Patricia keep stolen jewelry just to avoid conflict. Thank you, I whisper. For trusting me. For teaching me. For leaving me something they couldn't take away. I stand there for a long time, listening to birds and thinking about choices. About how Patricia could have returned the box when I asked. How Diane could have stayed out of it. How Brandon could have supported his wife, but they didn't. And those choices cost them. Cost Patricia $18,000 and a house. Cost Diane her son's marriage. Cost Brandon his wife. All because they believed I wouldn't fight back. Because they thought quiet meant weak. Because they mistook my kindness for permission to take what wasn't theirs. They were wrong. And now they know exactly what that mistake cost. I leave the flowers and walk back to my car. In the safety deposit box downtown, the cedar box waits. Inside it, jewelry worth $200,000. Letters from my great-grandmother. A diary that explained everything. And proof that sometimes the people who love you most leave you exactly what you need to survive the people who love you least.